Lena sat alone by the fire, her eyes fixed on the empty doorway. Her husband, Kofi, had been gone for nearly a year, traveling to a neighboring town to teach at a prestigious school. With the winter season settling in and the New Year's festival just days away, Lena couldn't help but feel the weight of both worry and anticipation. She had not only missed Kofi's presence, but also the money he had promised to bring back. The small sum he left her had long been spent. And now, with the New Year approaching, there was no food left in the house. The New Year's festival was known for its extravagant celebrations, and families were expected to have a grand feast to usher in the new year. For Lena, the new year meant more than just a celebration. It was about proving to the village that they were well off enough to afford the feast and, thus, secure their place in the community's eyes. There would be plenty of roasted meats, boiled vegetables, and a rich stew made of rare herbs. The festival lasted for several days, and to make it through without embarrassment, one needed enough food to feed the whole family for weeks. Lena had begun to worry. She was growing anxious, and Kofi's absence weighed heavily on her heart. She'd expected him home by now. Her hands trembled as she reached out to stoke the fire. But just as she did, the sound of footsteps crunching through the snow caught her attention. Relief flooded her as Kofi appeared at the door, his coat covered in snow, his eyes tired but kind. "You're back," Lena exclaimed, rushing to greet him. She handed him a steaming cup of broth to warm him, her face brightening as she waited to hear the good news about the money. After a long pause, Kofi smiled weakly. "It was a good year. I earned a gold coin and a few silver pieces." Lena's heart fluttered. "Oh, thank the spirits. We can finally make the festival dinner." "But, Lena," Kofi hesitated, his brow furrowing. "There's something you need to know. The money isn't here." "What do you mean it isn't here?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Where is it?" Kofi took a deep breath. "I gave it away." Lena stared at him, unable to comprehend what she was hearing. "What? You gave it away? To whom?" Kofi lowered his gaze. "I didn't want to. But there was a woman in need." He explained slowly, recounting the story of his journey. Earlier that day, as he walked through the snowy path toward home, he had come across a woman crying near the edge of a frozen river. She had been desperately trying to cross, seemingly ready to throw herself into the icy waters. Lena's heart sank as she listened, but Kofi continued. "Her name was Amara. She told me her husband had been lost in a distant village for months, and her daughter, Kira, was terribly ill. She couldn't afford the medicine or food to get through the winter. Her tears were so desperate that I couldn't just walk away." Kofi paused, the weight of his decision hanging in the air. "I gave her the gold coin, the only thing I had to bring back to you." Lena's chest tightened as she struggled to process the news. "Kofi, how could you? We have nothing now. The festival is here, and our neighbors will surely see that we have no food. What will we do?" Kofi reached out to her, his voice filled with remorse. "I didn't know what else to do, Lena. I couldn't let her suffer when I had the means to help. We will find a way, together." But Lena's worry remained. "We must have food, Kofi. I won't let our family starve because of your kindness. Go, ask our neighbors for help. Perhaps they will lend us something." The next morning, Kofi set out in search of help. He knocked on door after door, but each time, the villagers were either too busy or too proud to offer assistance. When one elderly man finally handed him a small sack, Kofi opened it, only to find it filled with stones instead of coins. Exhausted and discouraged, Kofi returned home and told Lena of his failed attempts. "I've tried everything, Lena. There's nothing more to do. We will have to make do with what we have," he said, collapsing beside her. Lena, however, refused to give up. No, we cannot just give up. You have to try again. We have to feed our children. Her resolve spurred Kofi to action once more. He set out again, determined to find a way, no matter how impossible it seemed. He knocked on every door, his hope starting to wane with each refusal. Finally, as he reached the edge of the village, he saw a familiar face, a kind old merchant named Hadia, who had always shown him goodwill. When Kofi explained his predicament, Hadia smiled and handed him a basket filled with fresh bread, vegetables, and even a small chicken. Take this, Kofi. You and Lena are good people. I wish you both well for the new year. With newfound hope, Kofi hurried home. When he arrived, he found Lena already preparing the fire for cooking. Together, they worked to make the best of what they had. As the evening of the new year arrived, Lena and Kofi sat down to a simple but heartfelt meal. The village might have feasted on grand dishes, but for Lena and Kofi, the joy came from knowing that they had made it through the darkest of times, thanks to kindness and community. The festival came and went, but the warmth of that meal, shared between two people who had faced hardship and prevailed, remained in their hearts for many years to come.